Welcome to your deep dive. I'm so excited to unpack this one with you. Today we're going beyond the usual AI talk about, task automation and algorithms.
Hmm.
We're stepping into the world of AI as a creator.
Right.
Think AI, writing books, composing music, designing art, the whole creative shebang.
It's fascinating. It makes us rethink our whole concept of creativity.
Right.
Is it something purely human? Can a machine really tap into that same spark of originality?
That is exactly what we're going to explore.
Yeah.
We're diving into a fascinating batch of academic studies,
Okay.
all focusing on how people feel about things created by AI. Are we ready to embrace AI as an artist, writer, musician? Or do we still cling to that belief that these are uniquely human talents?
You, our listener, are someone who loves knowledge and aha moments. So
Mhm.
we've tailored this deep dive to give you just that.
I love it.
We'll unpack this research, pull out the most surprising findings, and leave you with some big questions to ponder.
Okay, let's get into it. These studies actually involved 3 separate experiments, all designed to analyze what consumers think about AI-made products.
Interesting.
They focused on 3 product types: traditional books, ebooks, and those cool print canvas art pieces you see everywhere these days.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah.
The researchers took a clever approach in each experiment. They showed people these products, but with a little twist.
Okay.
Some participants saw hints that the product was AI created, while others weren't given any clues. Then they measured all sorts of reactions, how much people were willing to pay, how they rated the quality and authenticity, how risky they thought the purchase was,
Wow.
the whole gamut.
And here's where things get really interesting across the board. When people even suspected that AI was involved, their reactions took a nosedive.
Really?
They were less likely to shell out money for the AI-created product, rated its authenticity and credibility lower,
Wow.
and perceived the purchase as much riskier.
It's like there's this inherent skepticism,
Yeah.
this gut feeling that if it's machine-made, it can't possibly be as good or as valuable as something created by a human.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. Imagine you're scrolling online for a new book, or you're at an art fair looking for a cool print to hang in your living room. Would that little AI-created tag make you hesitate even for a second?
Right.
Because that's exactly what the researchers found.
But there's a bit of a twist. While these negative reactions to AI hints were widespread, they weren't equally strong for all product types.
Oh, yeah, the nuances. Tell me more about those.
Well, for books and ebooks, the AI hints really tanked perceptions. People saw them as less authentic, less valuable.
Yeah.
It's almost like we have this deeply ingrained belief that books are the product of human thoughts, emotions, and creativity.
Mm.
And for many, AI just doesn't fit into that picture.
Right, like I can almost see people thinking, can an algorithm really write a novel that touches my soul?
Exactly. But when it came to the print canvas art,
Yeah.
the negative effect wasn't as strong. I think this points to a difference in how we view different types of art. With visual art, especially, something tangible like a print,
Mhm.
you can directly judge the finished product. You see the colors, the composition, the texture.
Right.
The how it was made might matter less
Yeah.
because the what is right there in front of you.
So maybe we're more forgiving of AI when it comes to visual mediums where we can see and experience the end result?
That's a really good point. But what's even more intriguing is that the researchers discovered factors that can actually lessen the impact of those negative AI hints.
Oh, yeah.
Think of it like this. Even though some people had initial hesitation when they learned something was AI created,
Mm-hmm.
some people were more open to the idea.
Okay.
These people had something in common.
Oh, yeah, the moderators. I was wondering about those.
Right. It turns out there are 2 key things that can make people more receptive to AI-created stuff. Trust in AI
Okay.
and familiarity with AI-generated content.
So if you generally trust AI, maybe you've had good experiences with AI assistants or you're excited about the possibilities of AI,
Yeah.
you're less likely to automatically reject something just because it was made by AI. It's like having a little voice in your head saying, hey, give this AI-created art a chance. It might be awesome.
Precisely. And similarly, people who are already used to interacting with AI-generated content, like those Spotify playlists curated by algorithms or those news summaries you see online, were also less put off by the AI hints. It's almost like exposure and experience lead to a certain level of comfort.
So it's not all doom and gloom for AI artists and writers.
Right.
The more we encounter AI in our daily lives and see examples of high-quality AI-generated work, the more those initial biases might start to fade.
That's a very hopeful perspective, and it highlights the importance of education and exposure when it comes to AI. The more we understand how it works and what it's capable of, the more comfortable we'll be with its creative potential.
It seems like this research is shedding light on some really deep-seated beliefs about creativity, but they didn't stop there, did they?
No, they did not.
They actually dug deeper to understand the why behind these reactions. What did they find?
They did indeed, and this is where we get into some really fascinating psychology. They discovered that two major factors were driving those negative reactions to the AI hints: perceived authenticity
Okay.
and performance risk.
So on the authenticity front, it seems like people felt that AI-created products, especially books, lacked that genuine, heartfelt expression of creativity that we associate with human-made things.
As though AI is just mimicking human creativity rather than expressing something truly original and meaningful.
Yeah.
It's like people were saying, sure, the AI can string words together, but can it really understand the human experience and pour that into a novel?
And the performance risk, I'm guessing, was all about the worry that the AI-created product wouldn't live up to expectations.
Yes.
Like with a book, people might wonder if the writing would be as nuanced and engaging as a human author's work. Can an algorithm really grasp the subtleties of character development, plot twists, emotional depth?
Exactly. And for some, there's also the question of lasting value. Will that AI-created work hold up over time? Will it be considered a classic or just a fleeting fad?
This is so interesting. So it's not just about that initial, ew, AI made this reaction.
Right.
It's about how we perceive the long-term value and impact of AI creativity. But did the researchers find any way to overcome this bias? Like, could more information about the product change people's minds?
They tried that actually in one of the studies. They focused specifically on ebooks and attempted to counteract those negative AI hints by bombarding participants with extra information about the book.
What?
Think detailed summaries, table of contents, sample chapters, glowing reviews, almost like you were browsing the ultimate online bookstore.
Wow. So they're basically trying to drown out the AI skepticism with a wave of positive product info. I'm guessing this is where we get to another one of those aha moments.
You bet the results were quite surprising. Even with all that extra info, people still saw AI-written ebooks as less authentic and less enjoyable than those they thought were written by humans.
So even if an AI wrote the next bestseller, people might still hesitate to pick it up just because of that AI-made label that's kind of disheartening.
It really underscores how ingrained this perception is. It's not just about the product itself. It's about our deeply held beliefs about the nature of creativity.
It's like we're holding on to this romantic idea that true creativity requires a human heart and soul.
Right.
And AI just can't replicate that no matter how good the output is.
But it's not a completely hopeless situation.
Hmm.
Remember those moderators we talked about, trust in AI
Yeah.
and familiarity with AI content? Even when faced with that AI author label, people with higher trust in AI were more open to giving the ebook a chance.
So it's not a lost cause, maybe, as AI becomes even more woven into our lives and we start seeing more examples of amazing AI-created works. Those biases will start to fade. But they also tried another approach, right? That's something about the visibility of the product.
They did. In their third study, they shifted focus to those print canvas art pieces.
Okay.
This time, instead of manipulating the information, they played around with how clearly people could see the final artwork.
Oh, this is interesting. Tell me more about that.
Some participants were shown a crisp, high-resolution image of the artwork, while others only got a blurry, low-res version. And of course, they also included the labels artist created or AI created to see how that influenced perceptions.
Okay. I see where this is going. It's like being at an art fair. Some booths have the artwork beautifully displayed,
Right.
while others just have tiny, blurry thumbnails. I bet that makes a huge difference in how you perceive the art.
You're absolutely right, and that's exactly what the researchers found. When people could see the artwork in all its glory, their willingness to pay and buy it went up significantly, regardless of whether it was labeled as artist-created or AI-created.
So seeing is believing, right? When we can directly experience the quality of something, the creator becomes less important.
That's a great way to put it. It becomes less about who made it and more about whether I personally connect with it and appreciate its beauty or impact.
That makes perfect sense. But did the researchers happen to look into whether that effect was stronger for artist-created pieces versus AI-created pieces, or was it pretty even across the board?
That's a great question. Interestingly, they did find a difference. While visibility boosted willingness to pay for both types of artwork, the effect was even more pronounced for the pieces labeled as artist-created.
So even when presented with undeniable visual evidence, there's still this lingering preference for human creativity that's fascinating. It makes you wonder if AI will ever truly be seen as an equal partner in the creative process, or if it'll always be viewed as a tool, a facilitator, rather than a true artist in its own right.
That is a question for the ages, isn't it? And to make things even more complex, the researchers also stumbled upon a fascinating interaction between the type of authorship and how clearly people could see the final product. This had to do with how much effort people perceived went into creating the work.
Ooh, interactions are always where things get extra juicy. What did they find?
Get this, when the art piece was clearly visible and labeled as AI created, people actually thought that less effort went into making it. But if the same piece was blurry and labeled as human-made, the perceived effort shot way up.
Wait, so we assume that AI can effortlessly crank out masterpieces while humans have to slave away in their studios, talk about a double standard.
It really speaks to our assumptions about both human and artificial creativity. We tend to romanticize the human creative process, picturing it as this long, arduous, soulful journey. Whereas with AI, we assume it's all algorithms and processing power, no sweat, no struggle, just instant results.
It's almost like we're denying AI the credit for its own creative process. Even if we acknowledge that the end product is impressive, we still downplay the effort involved in getting there.
That's a really important point, and it brings us to the core of this whole discussion.
Mm.
We're not just talking about consumer products here. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how we value and perceive creativity itself. If we're already having this much trouble accepting AI in art and literature, what happens when AI starts generating scientific discoveries, composing symphonies, or even writing screenplays?
Right, it makes you wonder if those same biases will apply. Will we be able to judge the work on its own merits, regardless of who or what created it? Or will we always see that AI-made label and instantly devalue it?
These are the kinds of questions we'll keep grappling with as AI's creative abilities continue to evolve. And as we've seen from this research, the answers are far from simple.
It really highlights the complex interplay between our perceptions of technology, our understanding of creativity, and ultimately our own human biases. But I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive before we move on. Is there anything else you think our listeners should keep in mind from what we've discussed so far?
I think the key takeaway here is that our relationship with AI as a creative force is still very much in its early stages. We're still figuring out what it means, what it's capable of, and how it fits into our existing understanding of creativity.
It's a journey of discovery, and we're all along for the ride. I, for one, am excited to see where it takes us, but we'll save that exploration for the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of AI creativity. Before we jumped into the break, we were talking about how just knowing something was made by AI can affect how much we're willing to pay for it, especially with things like books and art.
Right.
It's like that AI-made tag throws up a red flag for some people.
It's really fascinating how our perceptions play such a big role.
Absolutely. And it makes me wonder, did the researchers find anything that could actually flip that switch? Is there anything that can make people more open to the things created by AI?
They did explore a few different avenues. Remember how we talked about those negative reactions to AI hints, particularly with ebooks?
Yeah.
The researchers tried to see if they could counteract those hints by flooding people with extra information about the book itself. Imagine detailed summaries, tables of contents, sample chapters, even tons of positive reviews like you were browsing the most comprehensive online bookstore ever.
So they were basically trying to bury the AI skepticism under an avalanche of positive book details. Did it work?
Surprisingly, no. Even with all that extra information, people still rated AI-written ebooks as less authentic and less enjoyable compared to ebooks they believed were written by humans.
Wow, that's really stubborn. So even if an AI wrote the next big bestseller, people might still be hesitant to pick it up just because of that AI label.
It really highlights how deep-seated this perception is. It goes beyond the actual product and taps into our fundamental beliefs about what it means to be creative.
It's like we're clinging to the idea that true creativity needs a human heart and soul behind it. In many people's minds, AI just doesn't have that.
You're right on the mark. But remember those two factors we discussed earlier, trust in AI
Yeah.
and familiarity with AI-generated content. Those came into play here as well. Even when faced with that AI author label, people who had higher trust in AI were more willing to give the ebook a chance.
It's like their positive feelings about AI overall helped to outweigh that initial skepticism. They were more willing to say, hey, maybe an AI can write a great book.
Exactly. And in a similar vein, people who are already interacting with a lot of AI-generated content, like AI-curated music playlists or news summaries, also showed less resistance to the AI-written ebooks. It's almost like Exposure and experience can lead to a level of comfort. The more you see AI creating cool stuff, the more open you become to the idea that it can be a source of quality and enjoyment.
So it's not a completely lost cause for AI artists and writers. The more AI becomes part of our everyday lives, and the more we see examples of really high quality AI generated work, those biases might start to fade. But what about appealing to our visual sense? Did the researchers try that approach at all?
They did. In one of the studies, they shifted gears and focused on those print canvas art pieces.
Okay.
This time, instead of tweaking the information people received, they played around with how clearly people could see the final product.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about that.
Well, imagine you're at an art fair. Some booths have the artwork beautifully displayed, while others might just have small, blurry thumbnails that can make a big difference in how you experience the art.
For sure, a blurry thumbnail just doesn't do justice to a stunning piece of art.
Exactly, and that's what the researchers wanted to test. Some participants in their study were shown a crisp, high-resolution image of the art, while others only got a blurry, low-res version. And of course, they also included the artist-created or AI-created label to see how that affected perceptions.
So they were testing whether seeing the actual artwork could override those initial biases about AI creativity.
Precisely, and the results were really interesting. When people could clearly see the art in all its glory, their willingness to pay for it and their likelihood of buying it went up significantly, regardless of whether it was labeled as artist created or AI created.
So seeing is believing, as they say. When we can directly experience the quality of something with our own eyes, it seems like the creator becomes less important.
That's a great way to put it. It becomes less about who made it and more about whether I personally connect with it and appreciate its beauty or impact.
Makes total sense to me. But did the researchers happen to look into whether that effect was stronger for the artist-created pieces versus the AI-created pieces? Was it even across the board, or was there a difference?
They did, and that's where things get really interesting. While seeing the artwork clearly did boost willingness to pay for both types of art, the effect was even more pronounced for the pieces labeled as artist created.
So even when people could see with their own eyes that the AI-created art was just as visually appealing, there was still this lingering preference for the pieces they believed were made by a human.
It seems so it suggests that there's still this underlying belief that art created by a human holds more intrinsic value, even if the AI generated art is just as visually stunning.
It really makes you wonder, will AI ever truly be seen as an equal partner in the creative process, or will we always view it as more of a tool, a facilitator, rather than a true artist in its own right?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll probably continue to grapple with as AI's creative capabilities keep advancing. But here's another fascinating twist that the researchers discovered, which really adds another layer to this whole conversation. They found a really interesting connection between how the artwork was labeled artist created or AI created and how much effort people thought went into creating the art.
Well, this sounds juicy. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so picture this. When the artwork was clearly visible and labeled as AI created, people actually thought that less effort went into making it. But when the exact same artwork was blurry and labeled as human made, people perceived that a lot more effort went into creating it.
Wow, that's fascinating. So it's like we automatically assume that AI can just effortlessly churn out masterpieces, while human artists have to toil away in their studios, pouring their heart and soul into every brushstroke.
Exactly. And it really speaks to the assumptions we make about both human and artificial creativity. We tend to romanticize the human creative process, picturing it as this long, arduous, soulful journey, whereas with AI, we assume it's all algorithms and processing power. No sweat, no struggle, just instant results.
It's almost as if we're denying AI the recognition for its own creative process. Even if we acknowledge that the final product is impressive, we still downplay the effort involved in getting there. It's almost like we're holding AI to a different standard than we hold human artists.
That's a great point, and it brings us to the heart of this whole discussion. We're
Yeah.
not just talking about consumer products here. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how we understand and value creativity itself.
You're right. It's about so much more than just art and literature. If we're already struggling with accepting AI as a creative force in these fields, what happens when AI starts generating groundbreaking scientific discoveries, composing symphonies, or even writing screenplays?
Exactly what happens when AI starts creating things that we traditionally associate with the highest forms of human ingenuity and expression.
Will we be able to shake off those biases and appreciate the work on its own merits, regardless of who or what created it? Or will we always see that AI-made label and instantly devalue it?
These are questions that we'll continue to grapple with as AI becomes even more integrated into our lives and its creative capabilities continue to expand.
It really underscores the complex interplay between our perceptions of technology, our understanding of creativity, and ultimately our own human biases. And I think this brings us to a natural point to wrap up the second part of our deep dive.
Yes, I agree. It's been a fascinating exploration so far.
Before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, where we'll delve deeper into the broader implications of this research, what would you say are some of the key takeaways our listeners should keep in mind?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that our relationship with AI as a creative force is still in its very early stages. We're still figuring out what it means, what it's capable of, and how it fits into our existing understanding of creativity. It's a journey of discovery,
Yeah.
and we're all along for the ride.
So true. And I, for one, am excited to see where it takes us. But for now, we'll pause here and take a moment to reflect on everything we've discussed so far. Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore the bigger picture and the potential impact of AI creativity on our world. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into AI and creativity. We've uncovered so much already, from those initial, ew, AI made this reactions,
Right.
to the power of seeing the final product and how it can shift our perceptions.
It's been a real eye-opener, hasn't it? It makes you realize just how much our preconceived notions and biases can shape our views on AI.
Absolutely. But before we wrap up, I want to zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture. You know, this research focused on pretty common consumer products like books and art prints, but AI is already making waves in so many other areas. We're seeing AI compose music, generate photorealistic images, write poetry, even create scripts for movies. It's like AI is becoming this multi-talented creative force, constantly pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
It's true. AI is no longer confined to the realm of science fiction. It's becoming a real player in the creative world, and its influence is only going to grow.
Which brings up a really important question. Are we ready for it? Are we ready to embrace AI as a legitimate creative force? Or are we going to keep holding it at arm's length?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And this research really highlights the tension we're facing. On one hand, we're increasingly relying on AI, benefiting from its capabilities in all sorts of ways. But on the other hand, we still cling to this deep-seated belief in human exceptionalism, particularly when it comes to creativity.
It's almost like we're saying, okay, AI, you can be helpful and efficient, but don't try to steal our creative thunder. Those are our domains.
Exactly. And that tension is playing out in how we react to AI-created products. We question their authenticity, we worry about their quality, and we hesitate to invest in them financially. It's like we're holding AI to a different standard than we hold human creators.
So how do we bridge this gap? How do we move from skepticism to acceptance, from apprehension to appreciation? Because it seems like AI is here to stay, and its creative potential is only going to keep expanding.
Well, this research offers some valuable insights. We've seen how transparency can play a key role when people can actually see the final product, judge it for themselves. Some of that AI bias starts to fade. It becomes less about who or what created it, and more about the inherent qualities of the work itself.
So instead of hiding the fact that something was created by AI, maybe we should be showcasing it, letting people experience the results and form their own opinions.
Exactly. It's about shifting the focus from the creator to the creation. And trust is crucial too. As we have more positive experiences with AI, as we see examples of AI being used ethically and responsibly, our comfort levels will naturally increase.
It's like any relationship, right? Trust is built over time through shared experiences and positive interactions.
Precisely. And education has a huge role to play. The more we understand about AI, how it works, what it can and can't do, the less intimidating it becomes. It's about moving beyond the hype and the fear and fostering a more nuanced, informed perspective.
So instead of seeing AI as this mysterious, potentially threatening force, we need to demystify it, educate ourselves, and engage with it in a more thoughtful way.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But perhaps the most fundamental shift we need to make is in how we think about creativity itself. Do we really need to pit human creativity against artificial creativity?
Yeah.
Why can't they coexist, complement each other, even inspire each other?
I love that. What if we started seeing AI not as a competitor to human artists, but as a collaborator, a new creative partner? Imagine the possibilities if we could combine the emotional depth and nuanced understanding of a human experience with the raw processing power and limitless potential of AI.
We could create art that is both deeply personal and breathtakingly innovative. We could tell stories that push the boundaries of our imagination. We could unlock scientific breakthroughs that advance human knowledge in ways we never thought possible.
It's a future brimming with potential. but it requires us to be open-minded, to challenge our assumptions, and to embrace the unknown with a sense of curiosity and wonder.
It's about recognizing that AI is not here to replace human creativity, but to augment it, to expand it, to take it to new heights.
It's a partnership, not a competition, and I, for one, am excited to see what we can create together.
As are we all. The future of creativity is a collaborative one, a fusion of human and artificial intelligence, and it's just beginning to unfold.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. We've explored the challenges, the possibilities, and the profound questions that AI raises about the nature of creativity itself. What started as a deep dive into consumer perceptions has turned into a much broader reflection on the evolving relationship between humanity and technology.
It's been a truly fascinating journey, and I hope our listeners have found it as thought-provoking as we have.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into AI and creativity. As always, keep those minds curious, keep exploring, and keep asking those big questions. Until next time.